Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 49 of hashtag BKOT, Build a Kick-Ass Offshore Team. And so we're very excited to have with us today Will Hill, and he's an expert, and he'll explain why. Now, we're going to have a great conversation about managing and executing through change. That's a scary word for sure, but in all actuality, is it? So we're getting to some details here, but first off, Will, thank you so much for taking time out to join us today. Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Will Hill. And if you're thinking about it carefully, yes, that does rhyme. But I've been serving the tax and accounting profession for over 20 years. And I just recently launched my own consulting firm, Will Hill Consults. And we really work with firms on everything around client relationships and making sure that the firm is maximizing those and really helping the clients to the best of their abilities as they stay on top of their clients' goals, hopes, and dreams, and look to be a valued partner in that process. So that's what we do with Will Hill Consults. As I mentioned, been in the profession for over 20 years, a lot of time implementing new business processes and tools at various accounting firms of all shapes and sizes across the U.S., and just done a lot of speaking as well. And I just thoroughly enjoy accounting firm owners. I think that generally they have the hearts of teachers. They're people that care about their clients and their team, and they want to succeed. And those are just fun people to work with, Chris. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're a vital part to an everyday small business corporation. And so, but recently as we head out of this pandemic, and a lot of change has happened, and it shook up the industry. But the thing is that I believe in, I mean, change is constant. It's just a matter of when, not if. But it could be folks that I speak with at Entigrity. They've been doing the same thing for 20 years or 30 years, right? And nothing's changed. But all of a sudden, we're here, right? And so there's a lot to consider before they move into this offshore staffing. But the biggest and most pressing change that has happened is this remote environment that we're in, and with a workforce as well. So can you share your thoughts about that?
Yeah, definitely dealing with different types and levels of staffing and staff interaction has come center stage. I think it's one of those things that was lingering out there. It was an arm's reach for a number of folks, but it was far enough away from the shoulders that you could ignore it if you wanted to. But now you can't. And it's a reality of where we sit. And for many firms, I think it's opportunity beyond just reality. But some of the hurdle there is it is a big change, right? And I think you're right, Chris. There's always change going on, but there's something inside of us that when we approach a change of some kind of size, we tend to really bucket it, right? And say, okay, we are now embarking on change. And I think that's one of the things that we have to think about as we consider how do we execute in the midst of change, is a little bit of recognition that things are always moving. And while we have defined a particular change or something that needs to be done differently, that doesn't mean everything has to come to a hard stop and we have to feel out of place, right? And so I think as we approach the subject of change, say, how do we really excel through it? The first thing we have to do is we have to get our mind right and say, look, things are always different. While we may have very similar processes, we've got different tools. We've got different business environments that we've operated in over the last 20 years. Regulations have shifted and moved. Those things are changes. Therefore, we've been through change. And now some firms would say, yeah, we've been through change and it hurt. And that's why we don't want to do any more than we absolutely have to. Mm-hmm. But I think we've got to see it for what it is. And where is that opportunity? And when we look at what's in front of us to change, and we think about it from the staffing perspective, you have a choice about which pain you want to consider. Do you want to consider the pain of a prior change that didn't go well? Or do you want to consider the pain that you're in right now, that this change is designed to alleviate? And I'll tell you, Chris, wherever you choose to put your mind, that is going to dictate where this change project goes. If your mind is all around the pain of everything that happened, you're going to miss opportunity.
Yeah.
If your mindset is around, we're solving a problem here and we want to solve it well, then you've got your mind set to opportunity and you're going to focus on the right things.
Yeah.
Chris, to me, it's my kids play baseball through the summer and softball. And I just talked to them about everything is about your feet, right? Wherever your feet are, that's where the ball is going to go when you hit. Wherever you step and point your toe, that's where the ball is going to go when you throw. And to me, the mindset about change is the same as feet in baseball, right? That's going to point in the direction of where you're going to go. So I think that's where it really all starts there, Chris.
Yeah. I love the sports analogy. I mean, that correlates to all sports. So you think about football, you could throw the ball up your back foot, it's going to be intercepted, right? It's all about feet placement. Basketball, you got to move those feet as fast as you can. Baseball, same thing, feet placement, boom, home run. Yeah. And so what that means is that they're in the mindset of, whole process, of course, but they're going to hit that ball, throw that ball, right? Make that basket. And so in relation to the accounting world, okay, identifying the issue, right? And then saying, how can we change? How can we make this aspect better? And involving everyone. I think that's a very important mindset, yes, but then involvement. So for example, I would say about 3 years ago, I've been doing this with Entigrity for 5, but 3 years ago, let's say a firm had 100 people and 10 partners. Guess what? I had the call with one partner. So I'm thinking, one, where are the other 9? You know what I mean? And so nowadays, same example, 100-person firm, 10 partners, there's 8 partners on that call. And that's amazing. And that just happened out of the blue. Like we didn't, market or promote that. It's just awesome that folks are all getting on the same page. And this is where when you're going through a process that everybody on the same page, all right, then the next step is to find, the right partner like yourself and working with a firm, staff like us, right? And then understanding what they do to help you with your vision, goals, and your mission for the firm. And so bad experience or not, right? This is what we're focused on now.
I think you made an excellent point about involving others. And as I was getting ready for this conversation, I wanted to make sure we talked about involving others. And where I have seen firms fall down in change is by not involving enough people internally, right? And so sometimes the firm leadership makes the mistake of saying, if I'm going to be in charge, I've got to make all the decisions. And I'm sorry, that's just a bad plan, right? One, it's not a great use of your time. And two, you are missing on the talent and the awareness and knowledge of your team. That's a valuable asset that is sitting right in front of you. And so, yes, you are going to have to set the direction, right? So let's say that the change that we're making is we're going to offshore staffing. Maybe we use this company called Entigrity, right? But we're going to make this change. The leader needs to set the direction, right? They do have to set the direction and say, look, this is where we're headed. This is the direction we're going. We're using offshore staffing for the production of, we're going to start with our bookkeeping work. We'll start there, we'll figure it out, and then we'll see if it makes sense to move on from there. So as they set the vision, notice a couple things. They point to the destination. Yeah. And they show opportunity from there. So we say, hey, this is where we're going. It may not end there, but right now we know where we're going. This is where we're going. Now we've got to say to our people that would normally do that bookkeeping, we're going to do a couple things with them. One, say, hey, I believe in your value to do other things. So when we're talking about change that results in staff role and responsibility adjustment, we have to make sure that our team members do not equate their personal value with their production, right? Their value is different than their production. Their value is their experience, the relationship, the skills they have in analysis, communication, maybe their empathy that they have with clients. These are the things that bring them value and make them valuable to the firm or to their client, not recording entries, right? That's not the value piece. That's just the production piece. So when we're looking at shifting roles and responsibilities, the leader's got to make sure that the team understands where the real value is and there's a good awareness there. And then they're ready to have that team come in and say, okay, we're going to shift these duties from you to somebody else. Let's map out what that looks like. Why don't you take the charge, Sally, Jimmy, whoever you are, you're going to take charge on making sure that our most recent documented processes, hint firms, if you don't have documented processes, now's a good time. I don't care how busy you are, but let's take our documented processes and say, what are these elements are we going to shift over? What are we going to keep? And let's talk through, what does that look like? Are we ready from a digital perspective and a paperless component of data input, data receipt, communication back to our customer? So we want to then let them work on the day-to-day stuff, because as the owner of the firm, how you communicate with the clients about status on the job, or internally the bookkeeping department debates decisions that need to be made, that doesn't sit at the owner's level. So why should the owner be the one making the choices for what's going to happen? That should really come from the level where it impacts. And the reality is that people are more committed to a change when they're part of the decision process, not just the execution, but the decision process of how this is going to work and flow through. So that involvement piece is super critical.
Yeah.
That the other side of involvement, Chris, is I've always thought that this profession was a very collaborative one.
Yeah.
And I have seen, and in talking to other industry consultants, they are in agreement with me. They shall remain nameless, but they're in agreement with me that through the pandemic, we've seen nothing but a heightened level of cooperation amongst firms and collaboration. There's no shortage of work out there. The clients need services of CPA firms, their compliance and advisory services very desperately. And so I've seen a great amount of collaboration. Collaborate with your peers. So you got to involve your staff, collaborate with your peers, find out who else has done offshoring. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about how you got started. It doesn't mean you have to do everything they did, but what I want is some awareness of roadblocks, of challenges up front. When we talk about executing through change, it isn't about how do I not have problems? Because frankly, problems are going to occur. We're involving, in 3 different sets of people: customers, our firm, plus whoever's involved with this change, right? In our example here, the folks that are coming from Entigrity, right? So we got 3 different groups of people. We're going to have miscommunications. We're going to have struggles. We can't avoid it. But when we're going to excel through change, we have to plan for that and say, if we have a good strategy on what's moving and we've involved the right people on communicating and planning for that, when there's an issue, it's going to be seen faster. And when I've involved my team and they discover an issue, they're going to own and bring that up and say, "Ooh, here's something we didn't think of," or "Wow, that didn't quite go as planned. How should we adjust? We did talk about it, but didn't think it would happen, or we didn't even talk about it. Let's have a quick powwow." But since they've already been in those conversations, we're able to get into that faster. And it's not a personal failure issue. It's a, hey, we own this change together issue. Let's go tackle it. Does that make sense, Chris?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, spot on. It's just in this example, right? It's like all of a sudden, right? Monday morning, you have on your TV in your office, there's a brand new associate in India, and your team is just meeting them. It's going to rub them the wrong way, honestly, right? If they had been part of this process and working together, and then they see them on the screen, right? They'll be excited. Let's do this. We're going to implement it. Let's go. But if you don't involve and someone shows up on a TV screen in your office, people are on LinkedIn looking for accounting job nearby. I mean, it's just going to not go so well. Absolutely.
There are a few of those out there right now, accounting jobs nearby.
So, and I've seen it happen, and it's just like it's not the best way to approach it. And then taking a step back, you were talking about, you know, the current staff in place, and I think too, identifying some leaders within the office to kind of spearhead a new project and help you with this change. So, and there's always a misconception that the best preparer, the best accountant, the best bookkeeper automatically is your leader. That may not be the case, right? And
Right.
so you find this out when you have like one-on-one meetings and evaluating your staff and catching up after the busy season. And then you could ask that, you know, I'm thinking, I feel that you have the right skill set, the soft skills. Would you think about spearheading this new project we're about to undertake? And then rather than just assuming, putting them on the spot, and it continues with more involvement with the team, because I find that to be to where there's an issue that it's assumed, you know, oh, they're the best one, they're obviously going to lead the team. So that's not a way to approach it, especially when you're looking to reskill and upskill. You have to you know, dig a little deeper and ask questions.
So let's sit on that for a moment, because there's another key area there, is that if you're going to have someone lead that charge, or some people lead that charge, you have to communicate a shift in expectations to them, especially if they are heavy producers in the firm, or if there is bonus and compensation based on production, and now you want some time for them to be thorough. So you've got to account for that and say, hey, what are some of those hurdles to their commitment that we're not even thinking of? That's what I think of when I think about the bonus compensation areas, is like, all right, hey, for the period of these 3 weeks while we work through and iron out this process and nail it down, I'm bringing down your items. Or after you complete this, as long as you're at a certain amount of production, I'm going to inflate the rest of the rest of it and capture that. Or there's a project bonus that's here beyond just a production bonus, whatever it may be. You've got to really shift those expectations to give that person the freedom and feeling like, okay, they're committed. If you do not alter the expectations of the rest of the work on the plate of those taking charge here, and just think, well, they can work a couple extra hours, or they'll just be more efficient and get it done, you're not empowering them and teaching them leadership. Because another part that comes from leadership here, as you get into a new project like this and helping run a change program in a firm, is I've got to work on my prioritization skills. And so, Chris, if you come to me and say, Will, you got to take on this change project, even if your next statement is, tell me the 3 things that have to come off of your plate, as long as we follow up on that, say, give me a date and time. Say, hey, 2 days from now, we're going to meet again. I need you to tell me the 3 things that have to come off of your plate to execute this well. So I'm not saying the leader has to decide what comes off the plate. What a great exercise for me as a newer leader in the firm, a younger leader, to go and say, hey, here's what I think should come off of my plate in order for me to put this on and do well with it. Helps me prioritize. And if you just give it to me, Chris, 1, it doesn't give me a chance to practice prioritization, but 2, you miss an opportunity to read into how I think about priorities at the firm. Maybe I'm going to give you the things I hate doing the most, and you have a great opportunity to learn what is my passion and what drives me. And those are important things when you think about staff satisfaction, employee satisfaction, that can really lead to a longer retention period as well. So a great opportunity is you shift those expectations to do that with excellence.
For sure. And then so as this is going on, you know, staffing is always an issue in general across the board. It has gotten to be a little bit more much more in a worse condition now because of, you know, the reshuffle, the resignation, redo, rethink, remake, everything, right? As folks are evaluating again. So now there's a new workforce here, right? And I'm an elder millennial. That's what's coined by LinkedIn. But the new workforce, they want opportunities. They want to see that it's just not data entry, because the profession is not looked at in the best of light nowadays either, which is why there's not, you know, replacements, you know, ready in line for everyone that resigned. So now as you're building out this new process in place or identifying leaders, and now you have job openings, but it's not just to prepare taxes. Maybe it's consultation or resolutions or tax planning, and then training provided. So it's more the workforce nowadays is more about what can your firm do for me, and not working 90, 100 billable hours a week anymore. So to bring in new staff during these extremely challenging times becomes a lot easier when you have these awesome positions, because the accounting profession, there's so many different positions available out there. People just don't realize, they just assume it's deadlines, tax preparation, data entry, not for me. So I think that it benefits folks.
Yeah, and the firms that are tracking with the trends have started or have fully shifted their mindset from managing work to managing client relationships. And they're approaching some of their hiring and workflow decisions based on that. And there's some great places out there that, different people, if someone reach out to me, I'll give you a couple off air, but places that'll train your new people on accounting and tax work for you. So that if you say, hey, I got someone who's a great communicator, someone who is hyper aware of their environment and can spot opportunity. They may not be able to execute on it, but they can spot it. Hey, we can teach some of that execution piece. We can teach some other background to shore that up. There's places that'll do that. We have to relax a little bit on trying to find a specific technical set and really look for how do we hire the right types of people to fill those needs that are in there. And the other thing we've got to think about the client in all of this. And, I think one of the most underutilized assets in a firm is the trust bank with their clients. There's many clients within a firm that the firm has, I don't know, is the phrase "save their bacon" still cool, or am I showing my Gen X age? I don't know. But the firm, wonderful things for these clients.
Yeah.
And as a firm, sometimes we tend to operate out of fear of losing that trust instead of operating out of courage to say, I'm going to go use that trust. So Chris, if you were a client of mine that we did great things for you and helped you turn around your cash flow, and you went from barely having it month to month, so you've got 6 months of expenses in the bank, you're able to make some investment in your business and you're growing, your family loves you more now, all that kind of stuff, right? I'm going to go to you, and instead of being fearful of what's going to happen when we make a process change, I'm going to go to you and say, hey, Chris, we're doing something new. I want to use you as one of the first ones that we're doing it for, and I'd like you to provide some feedback for me on how this is going. Now we're going to use the trust, and even if the process adjustment doesn't go well, I've set an expectation with you that it might be bumpy, but in return, I've already communicated up front and said, hey, I want feedback. If you do say you want feedback, please give them a chance to give it, even if things go smooth, because you did offer the chance to give that feedback. And now I can relax a bit and say, I may not have to have this perfectly ironed out. That gives me courage to roll this change out a little bit faster and then be able to scale more quickly after that. So don't forget about your clients in all of this. They're a critical part. You've got a trust bank. Go out and use it. The clients want to do business with someone who's trying to improve their business. Business owners know that if I'm doing some business with someone who's trying to improve theirs, that's going to rub off on me. Their business may have nothing to do with anything that's offshoring, and they may not be able to offshore anything. However, they're intrigued by the fact that you're looking for improvement, and they know that you're a key advisor, and they say, hey, if you're going to see those things in your business, you're going to see opportunity in mine too, and I'm going to be more engaged with you. So I think there's great benefits of making sure the clients are aware of change and being involved through the change process with you.
Yeah, it's so easy to start with your current client base, especially if you're changing your pricing model, you're changing the different services that are available or whatever it may be. Yeah, and then don't ever act in fear, right? It's focus on the positive. I think in general, if everyone just always just gravitates towards the negative in any aspect. And so I'm a big believer on the positive side. Things are going to go wrong. It's guaranteed, right? So, but if you focus on the positive, it's not what's the saying? it's not a problem. It's simply a new solution that's on the way, or whatever the
Mhm.
cliche saying is. And everything will be fine. I mean, and then you're just asking for the feedback. And so you're not implementing anything. You're just, kind of experimenting because you guys trust each other. And so I think that's very important, especially when you've gone through the exploration phase, you've gone through the whole testing, and now it's let's do it, the implementation phase. So I agree.
Yeah. And, if you're a firm owner and you're sitting there thinking, wow, that level of transparency with clients or with staff has me nervous, that concern is going to limit the growth of your firm. And you need to address that concern, right? Whether it be with coaching with somebody, who knows, but there's something that's driving that fear of transparency. And whenever firm leadership is hesitant to be transparent, and I'm not saying tell everybody every financial detail of your business, right? I'm just talking about transparency. If you're wrestling with transparency, you're going to struggle growing, period. And so you've got to win that battle. It's a critical battle.
Yep. Spot on. Well, I mean, we could keep going for another hour or two on this awesome conversation today. We appreciate you coming on here, and because this is exciting times to me, right? The profession is ready to kind of take the next step and not be looked at for a new workforce as like, ooh, accounting. No, it's like, ooh, accounting. Let's do it. So it's going to take time. Staffing will ease. There's global resources. There's resources like yourself. I mean, things will be fine. Focus on the positive, right? So, any final thoughts before we wrap up today?
No, I think that it's been a great conversation. I'm happy to be part of it. And if anyone wants to have a one-on-one conversation with me about working through change, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn or email me at will@willhillconsults.com. Glad to have a conversation.
Yes, awesome. And for our folks out there listening in, we'll be back soon with another episode. Do not miss our podcast. Like, subscribe, follow. And we really appreciate you taking the time out, as we're here always to bring in folks like Will today to help you through from now and into the future. Take care. Will, thank you so much for taking time. Be good.